Hello, barakatuh. How are you, everyone? It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for the University of غرداية for this kind invitation and for the organizers of the event, and especially for you, Dr. Yahya. I mean, I really appreciate your efforts to make this a successful event. Thanks for the attendees, and hopefully, inshallah, you will have a useful session. As you can see that our topic today is about tech savvy. I'm not sure. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah, everything is clear.
Okay, perfect. So this is the topic that we're covering today. It's tech savvy culture capsules, innovative tools and strategies to integrate culture into your English language classroom. Today, inshallah, I'm going to focus on some of the areas. Thanks for the nice introduction, Dr. Fatima. And these are the aims of our session today. First, we're going to focus on how important to integrate culture into our EFL classrooms. I mean, so many teachers are not being aware of the importance of integrating culture into language learning. Teachers, or some of the teachers, not aware of the importance of language and culture together. They are actually two inseparable bodies that cannot work individually. The next part, we're going to discover digital tools for teaching culture in our classrooms, and then creating and implementing culture capsules. We're going to find ways and techniques to use. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. I'm in Egypt at the moment, by the way. So my house is right next to the mosque, so we can hear Adhan, Dhuhr.
This is kind of intercultural change, Dr. Wadi.
Exactly. This is part of the culture, our religion, our beliefs. Everything we do in our life is part of our culture, and even the Adhan is also a big part of this. So, yeah. So, creating and implementing culture capsules, we're going to see how we can create and how we can apply these systems in our classrooms. And then finally, looking at what are the challenges and what are the opportunities or possibilities that we can use in our classes. Okay. So, yeah, first of all, we are going to look at culture. What is culture in ELT? As defined by Peterson, that the definition that we can see on the screen right now says that it's the integrated patterns of human knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors. So when we talk about culture, we're not only talking about what people do in their daily lives. We are talking about the accumulative knowledge of this specific nation over decades and maybe centuries of years. What these people have been doing over all these centuries, what are the inherited patterns of behavior, language, spoken language, even their physical features, the way they communicate, what they believe, the religions, their customs and traditions, the ways they get married, the way they propose marriage, the way they deal with elderly people, the way they deal with youngs, the way they interact in different situations.
Dr. Wali, sorry to interrupt you, but participants, they said that your slides are not moving. Could you reduce?
Yeah, the slides are not moving. So let me go back here. Okay, I'm not sure. I think it is moving.
Could you try another slide?
Now. Yes, right now it's moving. It's moving.
It's okay now. It's okay.
So did you see the next slide now? Why focus on cultural ELT in EFL?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, perfect. So my point here in the definition of culture is that culture does not only cover one aspect of our life, it's actually our life. It's everything we do, okay? And this cannot at all be separated from the language that we teach to our learners. So why do we need to focus on culture in EFL? There are so many reasons. The first reason is that, as I said, they are two inseparable entities. We cannot separate language from the culture. what we say in our daily life, the way we greet people, the way we communicate, the way we respond in different situations, our idioms, okay, are all taken from our specific culture. And that's why it's always difficult to translate idioms from one culture to another, because they never, the literal translation of an idiom never works in a different culture, because the meaning is different, okay? So we need to find something similar in the target language or in the culture that we're talking about or translating to find something that gives closer, or even if possible, we can provide the same meaning. That's why they cannot be separated, okay? The other reason is that the significance of culture in English language learning extends beyond our ability to use the language, okay? It's actually affecting the students' motivation and perception of the language. Some students sometimes have negative attitudes towards a specific culture or specific maybe country. So in this case, it's very difficult to provide these students or to motivate these students to learn the language. The motivation usually comes from their knowledge and love to the culture of the language that they are planning to learn. So it's very important to provide our students with a positive culture or a positive knowledge about the language and the country that this language comes from, so that they will have more motivation to excel and participate and use the language. Cultural competence also enhances communication skills. Yeah, when we know the culture of the people that we are talking about, it enables us to speak. We often have ideas to discuss. Imagine that you are, discussing a situation about what Christians in Germany do on Sunday morning, for example, when they go to the church. If the teacher and the students have no knowledge of this part, what are they going to talk about? So it's very important to be able to have, knowledge about the culture and the behavior of the people that you are discussing or talking about. Globalization demands culturally aware communicators. Yes, now in the age of globalization, we need to communicate with everybody around the world, and we are trying to provide our students with knowledge that they can use outside their countries. They need to communicate with the world outside, and they need these, cultural awarenesses to be able to understand what these people are talking about and how they are expected to respond in specific situations. We need to also engage our students in use of authentic materials, because everything in our culture is authentic. It comes from the people of this country. So what do we mean by tech-savvy culture capsule? A culture capsule, as defined by Moran here, is a concise, focused interactional or instructional tool or activity. It could be a tool or it could be an activity designed to teach learners about specific aspects of a culture.
Professor,
so teachers need...
Dr. Walid, the same problem. Yep. The same problem. So why don't you close your PowerPoint and again, close it and reshare it, because your talk is very important. We need to benefit and to see the slides.
Okay, I'm trying to close the slides and then I'm trying to open it again.
Try to reshare.
There I am. Okay, so let me go here. The problem is that when I make it as a full screen, I cannot see the... Okay, so let me try to share it again here. Okay, window, and here we go. PowerPoint presentation, share. Yep, I think you can see it now. Is it better?
It's better now, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ma.
Thanks.
Okay, and thank you, Doctor. So the cultural capsule, as we mentioned, is a concise, is a brief and focused instructional tool. Okay, it's some kind of activity that the teacher can use at a specific time with his class to enhance the students' learning. We need to provide our students with a tool that initiate discussions that help students to talk about in a specific context, and it has to be related to what is related to the course book. Okay, so for example, if there is a course book talking about travel, it's very important to show your students what are the areas that, or the places in the target language in England or in the UK or in the US or, you know, Australia, whatever the place is that mostly visited by tourists. So where do tourists go when they visit these places? Okay, these activities has to be concise, as I mentioned. They have to be short and brief, and they're directed to the students. And again, they have to be carefully chosen to meet the students' level. So it's not anything that we can adopt. So for example, if you have a basic level learners, you know, maybe B1 or B2 level learners who may not be able to grasp, you know, something that is, you know, linguistically challenging. It's difficult to ask them to go to, for example, to an encyclopedia and read research about this place. It's difficult. Try as a teacher, this is your role, to find a cultural capsule, an activity that fits your students' needs, level, and culture, which is most important, because we might find a lot of activities and a lot of tasks and a lot of cultural capsules available online to be used in the classroom, but they are not appropriate for our students' culture. Again, I've seen so many teachers trying to find videos on YouTube, show them to their students in the class. The level of the language is high, so students cannot understand it. Sometimes there are some inappropriate cultural, maybe photos or images that students may not be able to or may not like, especially if you are showing this in a Muslim country like Egypt, Oman, or Algeria. So the selection of the capsule, the selection of the authentic material is very important, and this heavily relies on the teacher's role in the classroom. So, you know, these capsules could include one of the following. It could be a written multimedia description. It could be a visual aid like a picture or a video. It could be some questions, simple questions about students' own cultures. We have classes and our students are not, you know, most cases they're not from the same culture. Even if they're all from the same country, they come from different parts of the country. And these students have different cultures. So it's the teacher's role to adapt, to get this knowledge into the classroom and get students to practice the language reflecting their own culture into the classroom. Okay, so next slide. I'm not sure how can I move the slides from here, but let me move to the next slide here and then move. Okay, can you see the next slide now? Tools?
Yes, it's clear, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now we are talking about the tools that can enhance cultural learning. I mean, there are so many, but I've selected these four are as the most important and the most influential because I've tried them in my classrooms. The first of them is Google Earth, and then the next is virtual museums, social media platforms, and video platforms. We're going to explain each one of them separately. So let's start with Google Earth. Google Earth provides a virtual cultural tours. Okay, I provided the link here at the bottom of the slides, as you can see it. If you click this, it takes you to the storytelling Voyager from Google Earth. Google Earth, as I said, provide a tour where students can actually visit the place. They can tour, they can move within the streets of a specific place. So for example, we're talking about a souk or an old market in Morocco, and we want our students to explore the place. They have no idea. They don't know how to speak about it. So we can ask students to go to Google Earth, go to the storytelling with Voyager, and find the souk that you would like to talk about, take a tour into the souk, discover the different places, see what people sell, what they're talking about, what are the colors, what are the most common brands or items sold in this market, and then get students to talk about. You actually give students a real sense of the culture of the place. It's not just hearing or watching something about it, it's actually being in the place. Okay, so try to use this technique, Google Earth virtual culture tools. It's very important and it's very effective. By the way, students can also see 360-degree views of the street. So they can see everything. They can see the people walking, they can see the streets, the signs, and everything. They can actually feel as if they are in a trip to this cultural place. So this is a very interesting tool that our students can use. The next one is the virtual museum. We have seen so many museums around the world that are providing this, including the Louvre, for example, in Paris. Similarly, I have seen a couple in Dubai, and we have the Egyptian Museum here in Cairo that offer the same experience online. So if you are trying to tell the story of a specific place, like the Louvre, for example, museum, you can get students to go to the website. And I, again, included the link to the Louvre online tour. So you can click the link, give it to your students. Students will be able to move around the museum, stop at specific paintings. They can read what's in the paintings. They can discuss it. They can read the history of the place, and they can also find areas of interest, and that would initiate a lot of discussion among your students. So you give them, again, another example of real experience of a cultural aspect or a cultural place. The next is social media platforms. There are so many social media, and I think our students are more aware of this than us. They have more experience, as we call them, tech-savvy generation. So our students use social media most of the time, and they know how to navigate, how to find information better than we do. I did a very quick search on Instagram, and I found these channels that you can see on the screen. They provide real-time user-generated content that reflect the traditions and the lifestyle and the values of different places. So there are so many channels you can find on Facebook, on Instagram, or on TikTok that provide cultural concepts. But again, it relies heavily on the teacher's shoulder to select the material before sharing anything with your students. Okay, make sure that it's appropriate for the student's level, the student's culture, and the student's awareness level, okay, to be able to share it and then talk about it. Another example here is video platforms such as YouTube. The ones that we have on the screen now, there is a video about Queen Elizabeth from Deutsche Welle channel, the German channel, and there is another one here on the left side about a Japanese tourist who was telling about differentiating between his life and his grandfather's life at the time. They took the same picture in the same place. So this is also would help your students to watch a video, relate to it, discuss, and the teacher is also responsible to create reasons for interaction among students. So watch the video and do what? Never go into a classroom and ask your students to watch a video and that's it. Before the video, there must be some questions, pre and while and post. So before they watch the video, you can ask them some questions to help them activate their schema, their knowledge related to the topic. Okay, and so, for example, if you're talking about the one on the right side about Queen Elizabeth, so you can get your students to tell you what they know about Queen Elizabeth. Okay, when was she born? Which school did she go to? And then they watch the video. While the video, watch and, you know, give me the most important dates. Give me, you know, the number of children that she has or whatever. So there must be some questions that students should be able to do while listening, unless they will not listen. Okay, and then, you know, post video questions or activities to discuss. So now, how are we going to design these cultural capsules? Okay, first of all, teachers need to identify the theme, and this theme will be based on the unit in the course book. So that, for example, in the picture that we have now, I got a picture of a Japanese couple on their wedding. So they are wearing their Japanese customs or traditional wedding dress. So once you find the topic, okay, and you identify the theme that you are going to teach today, you need to search for a similar video or a link to be able to share it or make it part of your lesson. You need to select it, okay, to deliver the digital tool that you will use to deliver the lesson, and then incorporate the multimedia element. It could be a video, image, audio. Again, it's very important to decide on the video or whatever the multimedia that you would like to use, even if it's a picture, and the length. So how much are you going to give this activity within your class? So if you have a like 40-minute class, how much time are you going to dedicate for this cultural aspect or cultural capsule? Then teachers need to design, okay, the interactive tasks, whether they are quizzes, group discussions, questions, getting students to give a presentation about the topic or what. So teachers need to select it and then create the activities that would go around it, as we mentioned, pre, while, and post. To practice this in the classroom, teachers need to embed, to make your capsule part of your language lesson. And again, it's important to decide when to put it in your lesson. If there is a reading, for example, in your lesson, do you think it would be better to introduce the video or the picture before the reading or after the reading? And why? You need to answer this question as a teacher. Shall I introduce this video at the beginning of the lesson so I can use it as a warm-up? Or I will use it after the reading, okay? So I can use it as a feedback for students and then give them some time to discuss. So you need to make it as a part of your lesson, and you have to decide when and where to use it, okay? You can use these capsules to spark discussions and reflections. So get your students after they watch to discuss and to talk about the topic, and then tailor the content to students' interests. Yeah, make sure, again, as you know, we know in many of our Arab countries, our students are very much into football. So if you have something about Messi, for example, or Cristiano or Mohamed Salah, or find someone famous, students will be very interested. So try to find a topic that you think will attract students' attention, so they will be more willing to participate and they have ideas to discuss and talk about. So what are the challenges when we talk about cultural capsules? There are some, actually. First of all, the limited cultural content in the course materials. Most of the books that we use do not have enough cultural content. As we said, culture is an integral part of language learning. We cannot teach a language away from the culture that it came from. So we cannot teach Arabic, for example, without knowing about the Holy Quran, okay? Because most of the rules of Arabic came directly from the Holy Quran. So we have to understand this, okay? And it's part of our religion. Language stereotypes. Yeah, our students and even our teachers sometimes have stereotypes about specific cultures. So sometimes they might say that all Americans do this, or all Spanish do this, all British, all Egyptians do this. I like, the Japanese people because they are all kind, or I don't like this specific nation because they are all look like this, or because they are white or black or whatever, the stereotype that they have about the people. This needs to be changed from the teacher side and from your student side. Before you start teaching, you need to change this mindset for you as a teacher and for your students, okay? You need to read well about the culture before you introduce it. Cultural misunderstandings as well. I think you can see this picture on the screen, the picture of the moon, right? This picture, in our culture, in the Arab culture, means beauty, right? The moon in Arabic always represents beauty. Like we always describe a beautiful woman as a moon. زي القمر, we always say, for a boy or a girl or a beautiful lady, we all say that she's beautiful like a moon. But in fact, this is in our culture. But if we look at the same picture in the Western culture, it's totally different. When people look at this picture, it always reflects negatively on them. It means scary. We only see this picture in scary movies, right? Like Wolverine or, whatever, like it's always something, yeah, vampires, yes. When they see this picture, it's always something related to blood and killing, and so it's actually a difference in culture. What we see it could be seen in a totally different way in a different culture. So we have to make a clear distinction between our understanding and their understanding, okay? We need to make sure that the language we use and the expressions we express actually reflect our culture, and they can be understood well in the target culture as well. Addressing diverse learners' background. You will be lucky as a teacher if you have a student or if you have a class with students from different parts of the world, because everybody comes with a rich cultural heritage that they can talk about, that they can bring to the classroom to discuss and talk and help other students. Like in Oman, for example, where I work, we have students from Africa, students from India, we have students from Pakistan, we have students from many different parts of the world. And it's very interesting. Once we have a topic related to culture, everybody has something new to introduce to the others. Even, as I said before, if you are in the same country, students from different cities, from different parts of the country, they have different cultures. As we are here in Egypt, people from Alexandria, they have different culture from the one in Cairo and from the ones in Upper Egypt, in Said, for example. So it's important to bring this knowledge into the classroom. So these are the challenges. What are the opportunities? Training. As teachers, we need to train ourselves of the students' own culture and the target culture. If you are teaching English, if you're teaching French, if you're teaching German, you have to understand the target culture that you're explaining, the language, the culture of the language, and the culture of the students as well. Okay, so we need to teach ourselves first before we teach our students. We need to make sure that our teaching is responding or culturally responsive to our students' needs. Okay, so the content that I provide to my students meets their expectations. It doesn't go against their values. It doesn't go against their principles. It doesn't go against the religion. Okay, diversifying course materials. So we can use pictures, we can use online resources as the examples that we watched. And also it's important to integrate technology. Now, what we can take away from the session, and I'm really sorry if I've taken more than the time allotted. So what we take away is that cultural capsules are very important in language learning. They are an integral part of learning a second language. These capsules can serve as a good tool to integrate culture into your ELT classroom. You can customize them to fit your students' context, the lesson, and your students' learning needs and the motivation. You need to make sure that you are, as a teacher, familiar with both the home and the target culture. So you need to educate yourself, make use of your students' background knowledge and diversity. So bring the knowledge that your students have into the classroom. Okay, these are the references that I used. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very, very, very much, Dr. Walid Shouqi, for really this topic that I consider it as a gateway to new topics in the domain of research in technology. Thank you for this analogy between culture and culture capsules. And you can't imagine, when I describe you the room here, our students taking their copybooks and taking notes from your interesting presentation and topic, which is attractive. Okay.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Hope our guests and participants here will discuss with you this idea again to get from your explanation.
I'm open for questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Walid Shouqi. Now we move directly to Professor Halima Benzough from University of Kasdi Mirbah, Wergla, Algeria. We are delighted and happy to have you with us today, Professor Halima Benzough. She is a lecturer at Kasdi Mirbah University, Wergla, Algeria. She has participated in many national and international conferences. Her publications, example, we have language and social differentiations, using literature in teaching basic language skills in the EFL classroom. She was a conference chair of a national conference in 2022 about using technology in teaching foreign languages. And she is a researcher who is able to work in the domain of literature and didactics at the same time. We are proud and happy to have you with us, Professor Halima Benzour, who